everyone. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez, coming to you from Washington, D.C. It's October 28th, 2020. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across the U.S. I'm Lynn Ramos in Washington, D.C.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett confirmed as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Citywide curfew in the city of Philadelphia after several days of unrest following the death of Walter Wallace Jr.
May Ann Manzano Guerzon in Sicklerville, New Jersey.
New Jersey mandates employers to implement COVID-19 safety standards as cases spike.
Randy Bayuga in Parisburg, Ohio.
Ohio governor says no mandate for counties reaching level 4.
ZJ Tumamao in Atlanta, Georgia.
Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden visits swing state Georgia.
Jessica Isidro in Houston, Texas.
Harris County implements safe election program.
Marianne Borja in North Hills, California.
Los Angeles reaches election milestone, surpasses 1 million votes by mail.
Plus, for business news, Bobby Soriano in New York reports about social media CEOs under fire in a Senate hearing. Weak rental market endangering economic recovery, and today's earnings announcements. And a virtual roundtable discussion about how little things go a long way in our observance of National Make a Difference Day. Our coverage begins now. First, an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday, October 28, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 44,300,000. Top 3 in the list of countries with reported cases: US number 1, close to 9 million, India, close to 8 million, and Brazil with 5.4 million. Sadly, more than 1,100,000 have succumbed to this virus. Top 3 countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are US, more than 250,000, Brazil close to 157,000, and India, more than 120,000. U.S. officials announced on Wednesday 5 Chinese agents have been arrested in the United States for their role in an operation targeting opponents of the Chinese government. Assistant Attorney General John Demers said charges had been filed against 8 people involved in, quote, an illegal Chinese law enforcement operation known as Fox Hunt here in the U.S. Demers said Fox Hunt was described by China as an anti-corruption campaign, but I quote, in many instances, the hunted are opponents of Communist Party Chairman Xi Jinping, political rivals, dissidents, and critics. He said 5 Chinese agents had been arrested in the United States on Wednesday, and the other 3 are believed to be in China. Meanwhile, Power the Polls, a coalition of U.S. nonprofits and businesses, is helping young Americans sign up to serve as poll workers in an effort to address a shortage of volunteers at polling stations amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Scott Duncombe, co-director of Power the Poll, says young folks are going to feel a little more secure serving as poll workers because they have a little lower risk profile compared to the older volunteers who traditionally work the polls. Duncombe also says poll working is seen as an outlet to become civically involved in this time of turmoil. He says this is also a way to help people financially, as poll working is usually paid and doesn't count against a person's unemployment. Although it isn't a lot of money, Duncombe says a couple $100 can be useful. In other news, Judge Amy Coney Barrett has been sworn in as the 115th Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. In Washington, Eagle News correspondent Imelin Ramos joins us this evening.
Thank you, Ace. The United States Senate confirmed Judge Amy Coney Barrett is an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court last Monday. The vote was mainly done by party lines, and the final tally was 52-48. Justice Barrett will be the 115th Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. The vote was one of the closest in history, and the appointment process was pushed through the Republican-led Senate in about a month. Monday evening, there was an outdoor ceremony on the south lawn of the White House where Justice Barrett was sworn in as Supreme Court Justice. During the swearing-in ceremony, President Donald J. Trump called Justice Barrett as one of the nation's most brilliant legal scholars. He mentioned that Justice Barrett will issue rulings, quote, based solely upon a faithful reading of the law and the Constitution as written, not legislate from the bench. President Trump then asked the current longest-serving justice, Justice Clarence Thomas, to administer the oath. After Justice Barrett was sworn in by Justice Thomas, she delivered a statement that was neutral in tone. She said, quote, "My fellow Americans, even though we judges don't face elections, we still work for you. It is your Constitution that establishes the rule of law and the judicial independence that is so central to it. The oath that I have solemnly taken tonight means at its core that I will do my job without fear of favor and that I will do so independently of both the political branches and of my own preferences. I love the Constitution and the Democratic Republic that it establishes, and I will devote myself to preserving it." Democrats were not happy with the confirmation. They argued that the Republicans are hypocrites because they denied President Barack Obama the chance to fill a vacancy during a presidential election. Many analysts say that with Justice Barrett on the court, there is now a 6-3 majority of conservative judges. Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was quoted as saying that his Republican colleagues may never get their credibility back. Schumer added, quote, "The next time the American people give Democrats a majority in this chamber, you will have forfeited the right to tell us how to run that majority. As election day is just a week away, we'll see if this confirmation will have any effect. If the Democrats are able to get a majority in the Senate, we'll see how that will affect future vacancies in the Supreme Court, or if there's a possibility the Democrats will try and stack the court. We'll keep you updated." In Washington, D.C., I'm Malin Bondoc Ramos. Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Imelin, I believe that not many people doubted the outcome of the nomination of Judge Barrett. The Republicans always had the votes, and it's clearly a victory for the Trump administration. Maybe you can tell us more about Judge Barrett and who she really is.
Yes, Ace. Well, if you do a simple Google search on Justice Barrett, you will get thousands of websites describing her. But from an article from whitehouse.gov, they say that Justice Barrett will be the first mother of school-aged children. She will be only the 5th woman ever to serve. Amy Barrett, 48 years old, is a mother of a child with special needs. And so she understands the issues concerning our nation's most vulnerable people. And, this is an interesting tidbit. Justice Barrett will be the only current justice to have a law degree from school other than Harvard or Yale. She graduated from Notre Dame Law School in Indiana. I'm sure the Fighting Irish are very proud today. Ace?
Thank you so much for that. I'm Malin Ramos from Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Ace.
When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Sicklerville, New Jersey, and Harrisburg, Ohio. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
satisfy mo to 100%. Satisfy. Consumption eh.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
I don't care how far, 'cause I can go the distance till I find my heroes will come waiting. Ikaw pa nga ang hinahanap ng puso, ang siyang magbibigay ng saya, ng tamis at lambing. I can wait forever if you will. I can wait forever.
Napakalinis. It's so clean. When you do the high notes,
Bagay na bagay sa yung Tagalog song.
You have your own identity. Napakahirap pala i-judge itong mga ito pag sobrang mga galing talaga.
Mas matinding sagupaan sa kantahan ng ating mawitness. Abangan ang tapatan. Ito po ang Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Singing Edition.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez in Washington, D.C. Philadelphia declares a curfew after several days of unrest following the death of Walter Wallace Jr., a black man shot by police. In Swarthmore, Milestones has the story.
Thanks, Ace. Last Monday afternoon, October 26, in Philadelphia, 2 officers responded to a call for a man with a weapon on the 6100 block of Locust Street. That man is 27-year-old Walter Wallace Jr. After the police officers asked Wallace to drop a knife multiple times and he wouldn't, police officers fired their weapon before he was taken to the hospital and where he was later pronounced dead. This incident was followed with peaceful demonstrations Monday night, which soon spiraled into riots and looting in the areas across Philadelphia. That same night, police officers were injured. Police cars and dumpsters were set on fire. Walter Wallace Sr. even said, "I'm against this looting and tearing up the city. We need to come together instead of divide. We're tearing up our own community, resources, of nothing to go back to." Looting and rioting continued Tuesday night. Rioters destroyed a Walmart store in Port Richmond, and stores nearby were trashed and looted. More than half a dozen ATM were reportedly exploded across the city. Today, following the city's consecutive nights of looting and unrest, Governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, signed a proclamation of disaster recovery to provide additional support to the city of Philadelphia. The proclamation authorizes state agencies to use all available resources and personnel as necessary to cope with the magnitude and severity of this emergency situation. The time-consuming bidding and contract procedures, as well as other formalities normally prescribed by law, are waived for the duration of the proclamation. At the same time, Mayor of Philadelphia, Jim Kenney, also implemented a citywide curfew that started tonight at 9 p.m. up to 6 in the morning. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbulan, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Myla, were the police officers involved in the shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. equipped with body cameras? And why are their names withheld?
The Philadelphia Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw said that the city plans on releasing the 911 audio as well as the body camera footage from the shooting on Monday. But she says that Wallace family will have a chance first to view the materials. And according to also Outlaw, the officers' names and other identifying information, including their race, will be withheld until the department could be sure releasing those information would not pose a threat to their safety. Ace?
I see. Thanks for the clarification, Myla Simbulan from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Ace.
COVID-19 cases in New Jersey are on the rise, and so the state mandates employers to implement stricter safety standards. In Sicklerville, May Ann Manzano-Garzon reports.
Thank you, Ace. As coronavirus cases continue to rise across New Jersey, the state is mandating companies and employers to follow uniform health and safety rules to protect all workers of both private and public companies against COVID-19. Governor Phil Murphy signed Executive Order number 192, providing mandatory health and safety standards effective 6 a.m. on November 5. Take a look.
I'm incredibly honored to be signing an executive order establishing strong baseline on-the-job protections for all workers across New Jersey to ensure their health and safety and to enhance their protection from the coronavirus. When we talk about our essential workforce, we often think of those we see every day on the front lines: healthcare workers, first responders, grocery workers, and others. They are, and we should think of them, and we salute them. But we must also recognize the thousands of warehouse and factory workers, laundry workers, and janitors and custodians, among others, whose efforts aren't always in the spotlight, who have been just as important to keeping our state moving forward. These are workers who often earn lower wages and are not always offered the security of healthcare coverage. Since the pandemic began, our response has been focused on the simple fact that public health creates economic health. We have remained committed to following the public health data and making decisions about our economic restart and recovery. The guidance we have issued over the past months reflects that, and we are deeply grateful to all employers who have taken it upon themselves to follow, or in many cases exceed, the guidance to make sure that everyone in their establishments is safe. And the order that I'm signing today builds on that spirit to create sensible and consistent standards across New Jersey's economy and covers essentially three key areas. Number one, it establishes workplace health and safety standards that will cover all New Jersey-based workers in both the private and public sectors. Number two, it creates a collaborative enforcement mechanism to ensure complaints and reports of non-compliance are properly addressed. And thirdly, it will make sure workers are informed of their rights and that employers are informed of their obligations.
Under the first key area mentioned by Governor Murphy are the following guidelines. Workers to keep at least 6 feet from each other to the maximum extent possible. Workers and visitors to wear face masks with limited exceptions. Employers to provide masks to workers at the company's expense. Employers to provide workers, customers, and visitors with sanitizing materials at the company's expense. Employers to conduct daily health checks of workers such such as temperature screenings, visual symptom checking, and more. Employers to notify workers when there is possible exposure to the virus. Employers to provide workers with breaks throughout the day to wash their hands. And employers to routinely clean and disinfect frequently touch areas in accordance to state and federal guidelines. The executive order also directs the New Jersey Department of Labor to provide compliance and safety training for employers and employees. The department will provide materials to inform workers of the rights and businesses of their obligations, as well as coordinate with workforce training partners to create and provide training. Meanwhile, here is today's statistical report of New Jersey's COVID-19 cases. The state is once again reporting more than 1,000 positive cases for the 11th day now since July 2020. According to the Department of Health of New Jersey, we have 1,682 new positive cases, bringing a cumulative total to 232,997 New Jerseyans tested positive. Sadly, we have 14 new confirmed COVID-19 deaths, pushing the total to 14,531 lives lost. New Jersey remains on stage 2 of its road to recovery. And as for some weather update, it's currently 9:57 in the evening here in New Jersey, and it's currently cloudy. It is 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 degrees Celsius. The high today was forecast as 69 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. In Sicklerville, New Jersey, May and Manzano Garzon, Eagle News, will live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
May and that's sad to know. 11 days, Jersey is on a streak with regards to positive cases. But let me ask you about your report. Governor Murphy mentioned about enforcement mechanisms to address complaints as part of the order. What is the guideline for this?
Yes, Ace, that's right. He mentioned that. So under the second key area of this executive order is collaborative enforcement mechanism to address complaints. So together with the New Jersey Department of Health, the New Jersey Department of Labor website will have an intake form to receive complaints, and will also develop an investigation and inspection protocol to review the complaints. Ace?
I see. And I would assume there will be penalties. Thank you so much, May Ann Manzano Garzon from Sicklerville.
Thank you, Ace.
No additional orders. That's what Ohio Governor Mike DeWine says for counties that reach public emergency level 4. From Pearisburg, Ohio, Randy Bayuga has the details.
Thank you, Ace. Cuyahoga, Clark, and Hamilton counties are poised to reach public emergency level 4 starting next week. Counties in public emergency level 4 are experiencing severe exposure and spread of COVID-19. In Hamilton County, contact tracing attributed some of the increase due to private parties. 20% of the newly infected people are between the ages of 20 and 29. The bottom line is people are not wearing masks and or practicing social distancing during large gatherings. We are not going to issue additional orders, says DeWine. He also states there is no mandate for counties who reach level 4. However, Hamilton County and potentially even Cuyahoga County may issue their own orders of putting schools back to virtual. As of today, in the last 24 hours, there has been 2,607 new cases of COVID-19 and sadly 17 deaths. In Ohio's 88 counties, 38 are now in public emergency level 3, which contains about 70% of Ohio's population. 46 counties are in public emergency level 2, and 4 are only in level 1. As of today, 205,347 confirmed cases of COVID-19, of which 163,472 are presumed recovered. there are 18,606 hospitalizations and about 5,256 deaths. Additional news, Governor Mike DeWine requests $5 billion dividend to Ohio employers from the BWC, or Ohio's Bureau of Workers' Compensation. They will now vote on November 2 on a request for Mike DeWine's $5 billion dividend request to help ease the continued fiscal impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He states issuing these dividends is important. This is about keeping businesses open and people employed. Lieutenant Governor John Husted also stated, "We don't want our businesses and the jobs that they create to be a casualty of the pandemic." The $5 billion dividend will be the largest issued by the BWC. It has already issued more than $1 billion this year. BWC CEO Stephanie McLeod says that the state insured fund is well positioned to cover our injured workers for years to come. She also stated that we never issued 3 dividends in the same year, let alone for this much. Ohio voting updates. Secretary of State Frank LaRose has been tweeting a lot about the record number of Ohioans voting early. Currently, there are 743,130 Ohioans that voted in person, which is 2.5 over the amount voted in 2016. And he also continues to speak highly of Ohio's voting systems as safe and secure. Ohio is a national leader in both election accessibility and security. Voters can be confident that every vote is secure and will be accurately counted. Perrysburg, Ohio, Ronnie Bayuga, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Thank you, Ace.
Ronnie, just like New Jersey and Pennsylvania, numbers are increasing, positive cases. But for our viewers who do not understand this, what is public emergency level 4? What are the criteria for a county to go to public emergency level 4?
So there are, in Ohio, there are 4 levels to these public emergency levels, and basically stating the amount of spread and exposure of COVID-19. So a public emergency level 1 are counties that they have actually 7 criteria that they measure to increase the public emergency level for a county. So a level 1 has 0 to 1 flagged of the 7. Level 2 is 2 to 4, and then level 3 is 4 to 5, and the level 4 is 6 to 7 of these criteria. One of the criteria is called new cases per capita, which is if a county issues 50 cases per 100,000 residents over the last 2 weeks, that is flagged. That's 1. Sustained increase in new cases. So if counties see a trend that's over 5 consecutive days, and that will also be flagged. Proportion of cases in congregate settings, that's their number 3, meaning if there's a spread that's appearing over multiple locations in the same county, that is potentially the disease spreading also. Number 4 is sustained increase in emergency department visits. So people are actually going to the hospital and actually having COVID-19. So these are, they need to see a trend of 5 consecutive days for that to happen. And the sustained increase in outpatient visits for COVID-19 like illnesses. So they're not just measuring for positive, 100% positive COVID-19 infections, But they're also taking a look at potential COVID-19 infections based on the symptoms. As you know, COVID-19 has multiple symptoms. So some people don't actually have the same symptoms altogether. So they're trying to capture that also as a trend. And then some sustained increase in COVID-19 hospital admissions. So over the 5 consecutive days in 3 weeks, they want to see, is it trending higher and higher? And you know, sometimes it'll trend like in week 1, maybe start to grow a little bit. Week 2 goes in a little bit. Then they see 5 consecutive days. They are actually saying this may be a strong note to look at as a potential spread. And yes, and then the 7th one is intensive care unit bed occupancy. So if they're seeing over a period of maybe 20% is actually starting to grow in bed occupancy just for COVID, then they're actually looking to see that that is also another flag for them. So they're actually considering a wide variety of things before they increase those levels.
Well, that's a lot of criteria to monitor, but I'm sure Ohio is on top of this. Thank you so much, Randy Bayuga from Parisburg, Ohio.
Thank you, Ace.
When we come back, reports from Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, and North Hills, California.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Nako, mabuti naman umalis na yung mga walang pambayad. O at least pumalit naman yung may mga pambayad. O, di ba? Yan, manak talaga ng singalaw natin. Eh di paano? Ako na ang kakanta! Nadali mo, Major! And I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever. And we'll always be making it right. 'Cause we'll never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Your love is like a shadow of you all of the time. All of the time. I don't know what to do. I'm always in the dark. We're living in a powder keg to give it up spark. Give it up spark. I really need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start to. Once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do. A total eclipse of your heart.
Sumaya tayong lahat. Saya-saya.
watching Eagle News America. I'm Ace Ramirez in Washington, D.C. In the final stretch before Election Day, Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden visits the battleground state of Georgia. In Atlanta, Eagle News correspondent ZJ Tumamo with the story.
Thank you, Ace. With only 6 days away from election, Georgia is one of few battleground states that can impact the outcome of the election. Both candidates have been seizing the opportunity to hold rallies in an attempt to woo voters to win over the state. Democratic candidate former Vice President Joe Biden visited the state yesterday at Warm Springs, Georgia, which holds historical significance to the 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt for being the place where he had his polio treatment and was his presidential retreat, and died there in 1945. Biden is trying to appeal to Trump voters in an area that voted red in the 2016 election. Former Vice President Biden's speech focused on Donald Trump's presidency, racial injustice, and the president's comments on the pandemic, which in Georgia has now reached 365,000 cases and over 7,000 deaths. Take a look at these clips.
Protest has broken out all across the nation. Protesting, though, is not burning and looting. Violence can never be a tactic or tolerated, and it won't. But much of it is a cry for justice from a community that has long had the knees of injustice on their necks. The names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake will not soon be forgotten. Not by me, not by us, not by this country. He said it's going to go away. We're learning to live with it. I told him we're not learning to live with it. You're asking people to learn to die with it, and it's wrong.
Joe Biden continued his speech, stating his goal to heal our nation, saying, quote, "We choose hope over fear, unity over division, science over fiction, and truth over lies." With only 6 days till Election Day, Biden tried to leave an impression for the state, also saying, quote, "In Georgia, we win everything." This is the last week for early voting in the state, and everywhere you look, you can find a Trump 2020 or Biden/Harris sign. We will see if any more political firepower is directed toward the Peach State in the remaining days. In Atlanta, Georgia, ZJ Tumamau, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
ZJ, before we let you go, what are the numbers today of votes cast in Georgia?
Well, there's already over 7 million people who registered to vote in the state of Georgia, and already 3 million people have casted their ballots either in person or by mail. The government is encouraging all those who haven't voted yet to do so.
That's quite a good number. It still have a week to go. Thank you so much, ZJ Tumama from Atlanta. To ensure safety of voters while they exercise their right this election season, Harris County in Texas implements the 23-point SAFE plan or SAFE plan. What is this? Jessica Isidro in Houston reports.
Thank you, Ace, and howdy from the Lone Star State. In Texas, early voting continues through October 30th. Here in Harris County, the county clerk, Chris Hollins, is implementing the Safe Election Program, which is a set of 23 total initiatives to ensure that the 2020 elections will be safe, secure, accessible, fair, and efficient for registered voters. Under this set of initiatives, the safety part includes providing PPEs to all election staff and voters that are needing it, optimizing the floor plans of polling sites for safety and social distancing, and promoting vote by mail within the bounds of the law. The secure portion includes the prevention of tampering by ensuring the security of voting systems and hardware, and by proactively responding to voter intimidation, coercion, or fraud reports. The accessible part enables votes to be cast quickly and conveniently by using data to increase the number of polling sites by allocating machines to polling locations based on existing traffic patterns and expected turnout. Also, by reporting wait times across the county during the early voting and election day, providing increased hours, ADA accessibility, and introducing curbside or drive-through voting. The fair part of the initiatives ensures each county voter has equal access to the polls by expanding outreach to all voters and groups typically left out of the democratic process in order to have accurate vote counts and reduce the time to report election day results. And finally, the efficient portion ensures resources are set to help elections run smoothly despite unprecedented conditions by recruiting and training enough election workers during early voting and election day, preparing enough resources to process the increase of vote by mail, and by procuring the next generation of voting machines for use beyond 2020. In addition, Harris County voters no longer have to stand in a long line to vote. The @Harris Votes Poll Finder map and wait time tool is designed to make it easier to vote while practicing social distancing. Polling locations and sample ballots can be found at harrisvotes.com. Meanwhile, we leave you with the following statement from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, congratulating Justice Amy Coney Barrett on her confirmation to the United States Supreme Court. On Monday, Governor Abbott stated, Justice Barrett is a tremendous jurist and a person of the highest character who will adhere to the Constitution and faithfully serve the American people. I applaud the senators who voted to confirm her nomination, and I thank President Trump for nominating Justice Barrett, continuing his excellent record of appointing judges who will uphold the rule of law. Hope you're staying safe there in Washington, D.C., Ace. In Houston, Texas, I'm Jessica Isidro. Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Jessica, did you vote already?
I did. I voted this past Saturday.
Okay, so what was it like voting under Harris County's SAFE plan?
You know, from what I saw before I went to vote, some of the polling places near me on day one had extremely long lines. The polling site I went to this past Saturday had no line at all. My family and I were actually in and out in 20 minutes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Jessica Isidro from Houston, Texas. Los Angeles reaches an election milestone by surpassing 1 million votes by mail-in ballots. With us tonight is Mary Ann Borja in North Hills, California. Mary Ann.
Thank you, Ace. Los Angeles reaches election milestone, surpassing over 1 million vote-by-mail ballots received through the 400 official vote-by-mail drop boxes located throughout the county. Los Angeles County officials are making it easy for registered voters to make their voices heard by casting their votes, completing their ballots, and returning them through one of the official ballot drop boxes, vote centers, and even numerous mobile ones located throughout the county. These are all done contactless and safely with the required face coverings and 6 feet physical distancing. 118 vote centers opened this past weekend for in-person voting, so no one can beat the lines and cast their votes early. So one can beat the lines and cast their votes early. According to the Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder / County Clerk, almost 50,000 voters came out to vote in person at these locations for this opening weekend of early voting, and this Friday, October 30, an additional 649 vote centers will open for in-person voting. These 769 vote centers will remain open daily until Election Day from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. More than 5,700,000 Los Angeles County residents have already registered to vote, and even though the online deadline to register to vote has passed, one can still register to vote in person at these vote centers. As if Angelinos need any more reason to go to Dodger Stadium, after the Boys in Blue won the World Series title last night, now they can also go to the home of the 2020 World Series champs to also cast their ballots this coming Friday, October 30. Leaving you with the recent tweet of Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, quote, "Thank you, Dodgers, for bringing home the World Series victory, lighting the night in blue to honor our champs." In North Hills, California, Mary Ann Borja, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ace.
Congratulations, Dodgers, for winning the World Series. Let's talk about curbside pickup. And nowadays, everything is curbside pickup, curbside touchless. What is curbside voting? Talk to us about it.
Ace, anyone arriving to a vote center who cannot navigate to the actual voting area can be met by workers at the curbside. A worker will give the voter a ballot, set them up with a voting device, and can even help the voter if needed. Afterwards, the worker will drop the completed ballot in the ballot box on behalf of the voter. This type of curbside assistance will be very helpful to those with physical restrictions or those who find it difficult negotiating the layout of a building or property where voting is taking place. Ace.
Thank you so much. Safer and more efficient. Thank you so much, Mary Ann Borja, North Hills, California. This is News with Bobby Soriano in New York and our virtual roundtable discussion about what difference little things make when it comes to volunteering and community service. That's next. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming din kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, pumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
Kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19
ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo
sa black propaganda
at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
General Partosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC
Japan Euro. We live in interesting times.
Hi everyone! Net25 Kids is inviting you to EBC Webinars 2020. A series of educational and informative webinars for teachers and parents, which will be live streamed via Net25 Kids YouTube page. We will be featuring several guest speakers with years of experience to share information that would be valuable and helpful for teachers and parents as they educate and manage their children in these interesting times. Hope you will join us! For updates, schedules, and more information, please follow the Net25 Kids Facebook page.
We have several stories from our business desk in New York with Bobby Soriano. Social media CEOs are under fire in a Senate hearing today. The weak rental market endangers the country's economic recovery, and today's earnings announcements.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. The CEOs of the three largest social media companies in the world came under fire today in a Senate hearing to determine their role in shaping the political discourse of the country. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey were all asked to attend remotely to discuss their actions, or lack thereof, in moderating political content on their social media platforms. With arguments for better moderating coming from both Republican and Democratic senators, Mr. Zuckerberg emphasized that the responsibility falls on Congress to update the law and give better guidance on what social media can and cannot censor on their platforms.
Every day, millions of Americans use the internet to share their experiences and discuss issues that matter to them. Setting the rules for online discourse is an important challenge for our society, and there are principles at stake that go beyond any one platform. How do we balance free expression and safety? How do we define what is dangerous? Who should decide? I don't believe that private companies should be making so many decisions about these issues by themselves. And at Facebook, we often have to balance competing equities. Sometimes the best approach from a safety or security perspective isn't the best for privacy or free expression. So we work with experts across society to strike the right balance. We don't always get it right, but we try to be fair and consistent. The reality is that people have very different ideas and views about where the lines should be. Democrats often say that we don't remove enough content, and Republicans often say we remove too much. I expect that we'll hear some of those criticisms today. And the fact that both sides criticize us doesn't mean that we're getting this right, but it does mean that there are real disagreements about where the limits of online speech should be. And I think that's understandable. People can reasonably disagree about where to draw the lines. That's a hallmark of democratic societies, especially here in the US with our strong First Amendment tradition. But it strengthens my belief that when a private company is making these calls, we need a more accountable process that people feel is legitimate and that gives platforms certainty.
Meanwhile, as the government continues to grapple with the presence of social media, another concern appears to be looming on the horizon: the weak rental market. In a report released by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, a study of national rent and unemployment levels concluded that rental households could be on the tab for $7.2 billion in owed rent, or $5,400 on average per renting family, when the national moratorium on evictions ends at the end of the year. If no federal stimulus is passed or unemployment insurance is given to those who have lost their jobs during the pandemic, the country's total debt for rent could reach $18 billion by this time next year. The increased debt burden on households would have a rippling effect on the economy as a whole, as households would be forced to cut back on spending, with businesses already struggling to survive on what customers they have now. Lastly, on the earnings front, several major companies announced quarterly earnings today. UPS saw strong earnings growth last quarter due to residential delivery continuing to be in high demand throughout the pandemic. Sony Corporation also easily beat analyst expectations and upgraded its guidance for next quarter due to what it sees as strong demand for its upcoming PlayStation 5 console. Boeing reported less than expected revenue loss for the third quarter, but also warned investors of slow growth as they do not expect airline passenger traffic to return to 2019 levels for another 3 years. MasterCard missed on their expected earnings level due to a decrease in fee revenue, whereas competitor Visa slightly beat earnings revenue. Finally, Gilead Sciences reported an earnings beat carried by revenues from its coronavirus treatment remdesivir, bringing in over $800 million in revenue for the company. U.S. indices were in free fall today, with the Dow and S&P having their worst day since June, as Europe announced new lockdown restrictions and the U.S. itself is continuing to fight record-setting daily coronavirus infection rates. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Bobby. October 28th is National Make a Difference Day. This day encourages individuals to give the gift of time and small gestures that, when done collectively, go a very long way. Tonight, let's ask our team what things they do in the name of community service. Because small or big, every gesture matters. Let's start with the baby in the group. Okay, Ate Myla, what do you do for community service?
So the baby in the group, right? So I joined Food Bank of Delaware has a program where companies can do some. You can go there and help them. So what I did is we put together sandwiches, and that will be sent to all those soup kitchens in Delaware. So those are one of the things I've been doing. I also go to Philabundance, that's in Philadelphia. So that what we do is we sort canned foods, and that will be also distributed to all those people who needs help, especially all those who needs help when it comes to food. Ace?
That's nice. I'm pretty sure that's very fulfilling. You know,
it is.
Let's go to the next baby in the group. She's already smiling. Ate Mayan. So how do you help the community?
Well, same with Myla. Since this pandemic, we have been donating fresh produce to the food banks and food pantries in my area, because they mentioned to us the first time we went there that they are really feeding a lot of people right now. And also, even before the pandemic, we donate our stuff that we no longer use to Goodwill or other thrift stores that support a cause. Ace?
That's wise. Very wise. Let's move on to Jessica. Jessica, I'm sure you have something in your pocket. What do you do?
Well, I also go to the food bank. I help sort out canned goods and whatever the Houston Food Bank has received. I help in sorting that. And then also many eons ago when I was in high school, I used to tutor kids. I'm sure they think I'm too old to tutor them now, but whenever I'm asked to tutor, I do that.
That's good. Very good. ZJ, how do you help the community? How do you give back?
Before the pandemic, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, me and my family helped out my aunt who ran a program to wash cars for the people in the neighborhood to raise money for breast cancer awareness.
Oh, that's cool. Very timely too. Mary Ann, how do you help the community? What's your small gesture?
Well, for me, I do like to keep a local a school club that I was in. We would go to local schools and help out with different events that they had. And also, on my own time, I do like to go, well, when they were open, the Los Angeles Public Library accepted volunteers very often, and I would help sort out books or just help out with the librarians there on my own time.
I'm sure the library needs a lot of hands for them to organize the books in there. Imelin, what do you do in Washington, D.C.?
Hi. Well, I'm not volunteering in any food banks and all, but we've been living here in our apartment for more than a year, and I haven't seen or interacted with my neighbors at all. So when pandemic started and lockdown was implemented, well, that made me think, are my neighbors okay? So I made a few batches of Filipino sweet bread called pandesal to give to my neighbors and to just check if they're doing well. If they need anything, do they need water? Because sometimes I have extra water, eggs or whatever. Then I think that's the time when we started to, exchange some of what we have. So if they are lacking in eggs, I will give them eggs. If I'm lacking water, they will give me water, and that's it. I wasn't expecting anything in return, but well, they gave my son a toy.
Cool. Well, sharing is caring, right?
True.
Thank you, Imelin. Rani, come on, share with us.
Hey, Ace. Well, earlier this year we did go to the food bank, and they were telling us how badly they needed help. So from then on, I've been starting to buy tons of canned goods that I could find, whether it's at Costco or wherever else. I go and buy a bunch of them, and I bring them to the soup kitchen for them to use for that day, because they are really in need of extra food. So that's what I've been doing.
Wow. Bless your heart. Bless your hearts, team members. All right. And it is indeed, because small or big or small, every gesture, every single simple gesture counts. It matters. We continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ace Ramirez. We live in interesting times.
Ika